everybody. Today we are debating Flat Earth, and we are starting right now. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here for this epic debate as we have with us tonight TJump and Lemon to debate the shape of the Earth. We are very excited to have you here, folks, and if it's your first time, consider hitting that subscribe button as we've got a lot more debates coming up that we are very excited about. So, for example, in person on March 17th, we will have Destiny facing off against Vosh. That should be a big one. And that we're also very excited, folks. In case you haven't heard about this, we just announced recently that David Wood and Matt Dillahunty will be going face to face in a debate on Christian versus secular humanist morality. So that is going to be a huge one in person from Austin, Texas on March 16th. And last but not least, I have to say it, folks, because we've got him here tonight. I mean, just super exciting, folks. If you haven't heard about it, we are going to have on that same, actually the day after the Wood and Dillahunty debate, TJump and his father, Steve McRae, will be debating face to face. So, folks, want to let you know, though, if you have a question during today's debate, feel free to fire that question into the old live chat. I'll try to pull out each question, and we will try to ask as many as we can at the end of the debate. We're going to have a flexible 8 to 10-minute opening statement from each side, followed by open conversation, then Q&A, of course. So, very excited. Want to let you know, folks, that these gentlemen, I have put both of their links in the description so that if you're listening and you're like, I like that, great, you can find more where that came from at those links right down there in the little description box. So with that, very excited, folks. Given that Lemon is taking the affirmative today. Lemon, if you are up for starting first, we are happy to have you go first and getting the ball rolling. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Awesome.
The Earth tests and measures demonstrably flat and level. It appears that there has been no real scientific experiment with variable manipulation and variable confirmation, neither a compelling physical operation or human testimony to attest to anything close to a ball. It appears to be more of a philosophical assumption. And so people have tested the shape of the Earth and found it to conform more to the level of the shape of a level flat plane as opposed to a curved ball. When people look at the flat Earth from a historical standpoint and from what, if any, scientific experiments were done to verify its movement, its shape, or any of the elements of the globe narrative, they find a bunch of holes, which are very disquieting and very troubling for the globe narrative. So people are beginning to throw out the old cosmology for something a bit flatter and looking at the science that is available and the assumptions that were made from a totally different perspective. So it looks like there's a bit of a flat Earth awakening, as it were.
You bet. Thanks so much for that opening statement. And before we do hand it over to good old TJump, do want to let you know, folks, hey, we have to give a huge thank you. We're, as you had seen earlier, the original title was supposed to be Billy Zig and TJump. We hadn't heard from Billy. My fault. I think it was... I'll take the responsibility. That was me. So, not the fault of Billy. However, Nathan Thompson saved me by helping us by finding Lemon and having Lemon come in and debate last minute. So I want to say thanks to Nathan. And Tom, the floor is yours. Thank you as well for being here.
All right, so yeah, we know the world is round because we've been to space. We can see it. You can go to space if you have enough money. You can just buy a ticket on whatever that airlines is, the Virgin Airlines. Just go to space and look and see it. It's round. We can see it's round, just like all the other planets and stars and moons and celestial bodies. They're round. None of them are flat, and the reason none of them are flat are because physics. Physics doesn't allow things to just be flat out in space for very long. It gets crushed and forms into a ball pretty regularly. Like we don't ever see flat things in space ever, pretty much. We see lots of round things pretty consistently. They're all round. Like just everything we see is just round. No flat things though. I wonder why that is. So we know the world is round because we can see it. I mean, anybody can go rent a balloon, a weather balloon. You can tie a camera to it, just have it go up really high, and you can actually just see the curvature. Anyone can do that. You just pick whatever camera you want, fisheye lens, regular lens, to make sure that it's the standard quality you want, and just attach it to a weather balloon. Just have it go up into space, and you can see it. Um, we know space exists because there's stuff in space like the ISS, International Space Station, and the satellites which we've sent there. And again, if you have enough money, you can send something to space if you want. Totally easy, doable. Anybody can do it. Every country can do it essentially if you have just a rocket. Um, Pretty stable. We know that the globe model makes testable predictions, like using general relativity to assess signals from satellites to Earth and how they change. And if you don't use general relativity and don't take into account the curvature and distance of spacetime, you get the wrong answers. It gives you the wrong location. Whereas if you do, and you say the world's round and general relativity is true, you get the right location. If you put that math in, it always works. You get the right location. And we know certain things like the Coriolis effect, that you can make predictions about the trajectory of objects traveling through the atmosphere. And if you don't account for the Coriolis effect, you miss. And if you do, you hit the target. So it's a testable prediction that verifies that the world is round. Um, there's the certain kinds of pendulums you can build that if you just leave them there, they're going to start to turn on their own, make a big circle because we're on a globe and it's spinning. And you can tell you can build the same kind of thing in all the different locations on the earth. And you'll realize that the way it spins is only consistent with a globe. If they spin not all in the same way or at the same time, and if the world was flat, then they would all spin in a certain direction, but they don't. They all spin in different directions, like if we're on a globe. So there are lots of ways to see that the world is a globe, but the easiest is we can just see it. Like you could just buy a ticket and go to space and see it, or you could rent a weather balloon and tie a camera and see it. Um, and we know NASA is not lying about everything because there are things up there that have been built by NASA, like the International Space Station. And we know that we've been to the moon because there's a man-made refractor on the moon that you can like shine a laser into and see it reflect in any direction, which is, as far as we know, only possible given man-made refractors. So we have pretty conclusive evidence that the world is round, in every possible respect.
Thank you very much, Tom Jump. We will now go into the open conversation portion. Thanks so much, gentlemen, both for being here, and the floor is all yours.
Well, it is fascinating that you talk about the space narrative, but there appear to be holes in the space narrative. NASA, in particular, has been caught with various instances of what looks like chicanery and tricks, which make it very difficult to trust them and what images, if any, they're giving us. Case in point, there is a picture of Pluto
Um,
where
Apologies, can I interrupt you there for a second? So, I can grant that NASA hasn't been honest, but I don't care. Like NASA doesn't matter. I can literally see the International Space Station with a telescope. I can see the satellites with a telescope. So there is space. We can see it.
well,
Who cares what NASA says? We can literally see space.
Well, the thing is, we need to call into question certain elements of their narrative. Water tanks used to simulate
Wait,
weightlessness in space.
I don't get it. Like
Harness.
I don't care about NASA. Like I can just grant NASA doesn't. Let's just say NASA is untrustworthy. Okay, we don't need to trust NASA. We can just buy a telescope at Target, look up and see the International Space Station, which is a giant floating piece of metal, somehow traveling at enormous speeds in space that we can or in the sky that we can watch. And if it's not in space, that means it's in the atmosphere, and the atmosphere will just rip it to shreds unless it's like magic or something. So we can
Well,
literally see space. Like, who cares about NASA? We can literally see it.
Well, the only element that's called into question in that, with the laser test and other experiments showing lack of curvature, is the existence of globe gravity as the propulsion mechanism for these satellites or whatever the hell they are, for orbiting above the surface. Now, if globe gravity in particular is bunk, with the surface being flat and level and unmoving, well, then there has to be another propulsion mechanism. NASA is on record with satellites attached to balloons to propel them. And there are other things that could be going on up there with what we label as satellites. They could be floating in some sort of buoyancy giving, fluid, like with all the helium going up there. It's not too much of a stretch to say that there's a relative amount of weightlessness up there. Whether or not it can be sustained remains to be seen. And then you could probably bounce signals off of the solid firmament if we are covered and contained by some sort of firmamental containment. It could just simply be land towers with at best, a couple repeaters up there to help, boost the signal. Who knows? It could be in a plane. It could be a solar powered drone. It seems that the main element of this narrative that needs to be questioned at the most minimalist, level is whether or not globe gravity is pulling these objects and compelling them around a ball.
I never said anything about gravity, so that wasn't a part of my argument. My argument is just we can literally see the space station and the satellites there, and they're not like aerodynamically shaped. They're these big boxes and cylinders that are apparently traveling at like thousands of miles an hour. And if and which we can't really do with a plane. So, and it's doing it consistently, like it doesn't stop. So if there was some alternative method of it keeping up there, they're gonna have to, like, refuel it at some point, which is kind of a problem since we can always see it. People can just keep watching it and you realize there's nothing there to refuel it, and if there's a balloon up there, again, something's gotta, like, refill the balloon with whatever is inside of it or maintain it, and it just doesn't happen, and there's nothing else around it that reflects any light, so it'd have to be, like, some kind of magic technology that we just don't know about yet, which is pretty unreasonable. We could it would or just be like it's in space, which is pretty reasonable given how much we can see about the universe. And I don't really know, like, if there is a firmament, it's got to be pretty far away because we can see planets like pretty clearly with the telescope. So the firmament, i- it would be easier to attach it to Earth with a giant tower than it would to attach it to some firmament outside of the solar system and then try to attach it back to the ISS. So that doesn't work at all. So, I mean, the fact that we can just literally see these things traveling at enormous speeds and that there are these weird ass shapes of just like satellites, not at all aerodynamic in any way. If we assume that they're in some kind of a medium, either a gas like the atmosphere, or even worse, an ocean or like viscous fluid or something like you mentioned, that wouldn't be possible given known physics. So, I mean, if there's new laws of physics, maybe that maybe, but I don't know of any. So that would be a pretty extraordinary assumption to add in. So, I mean, just the fact that we can see it is pretty good evidence there's space there. Now, what's causing it, don't care. It doesn't make a difference. We can just literally see their space, and we can see the planets behind it, and we can see they're made of gas. And so we can see that there's a ball shape, giant thing of gas that something is holding the gas to it in a ball shape. And it's pretty reasonable to assume, oh, wait, we could be standing on one of those balls. It's not too unreasonable.
Well, the thing is, it becomes an unreasonable assumption because we don't shine and we don't move. No experiment has proved the Earth moves one jot or one tittle, which appears to give credence to the ancient cosmologies, which appear to have as a common, thread, flat land, flat-ish land covered by some sort of covering or some sort of hemispheric, or in some cases, a total sphere covering of a firmament. And so you look at the Mayan, the Aztec, the Navajo, the Norse, these ancient cosmologies, which appear to have a common thread, with some embellishments here and there, but the overarching, phenomena that you seem to note is flat-ish land covered by some sort of firmament covering. We also have elves and sprites, electrical activity that appears to go up and appear to hit some sort of barrier at a certain altitude. And NASA's rockets conspicuously go up and appear to curve to avoid hitting something at a certain altitude. Once you divest yourself of this globe nonsense, you see a rocket curving. And sometimes if
Wait,
you
wait, wait.
do
I'm not quite following what
exposure
you're saying.
film of
I
the
don't really,
rock, you
wait,
don't
wait,
see
I
the
don't understand what
cloud
you're saying. One sec.
curving with a rotating Earth.
Wait, I don't understand what you're saying. You're saying the rockets curve? I mean, they turn to
Yes.
go into the atmosphere.
Yes.
They don't curve to dodge. They keep going up. They don't like stop going up at any point. I
They
don't know
don't
what,
go all the way up. And
yeah,
when they
they
do, they
do.
appear to hit something or scrape something in some cases. With the
No,
gas, it's billowing
they
out like
go,
they're hitting some sort of, barrier or something.
no, if they hit a barrier going that fast, there would be a massive explosion. Like that would be pretty obvious. It's not like they can just bump something and then keep going. That's not how rockets work. So if they appeared to hit something, they would explode instantly. They're going really, really fast. So they can't appear to hit something. That's not an option. If they hit something, everyone would know. So the reason they curve is just to align with, the spin of the earth so that they can actually get to where they're going. I mean, they're not trying just to go straight up. It's like a plane. Like if you get on a plane to go to Los Angeles, you're not just going to go straight up. There would be no point. You have to actually turn at some point to get to your destination. Not all rockets are just going straight up above NASA. They have to like go to the other locations that they're trying to get to. So obviously they have to turn at some point. I'm not sure why that would be indicative of there being a firmament that they turn, because that's obviously they're not just trying to go straight up. Um, and again, I'm not sure what you mean when you say there are definitely, when we send radio signals or whatever up, it's going to hit the atmosphere. It's just how light works. You don't see the stars when it's daytime because light reflects off the atmosphere. So yes, obviously things reflect off the atmosphere, but there's no solid there. We can know that because, again, we can see stuff that is really far away, like other planets, like the moon, like the sun, like Saturn and Venus and Jupiter and Uranus and Pluto and Titan and all of these other planets. So if there was a firmament, it has to be so far out that nothing that humans have made could reach it yet. Like, I mean, the farthest things that even NASA has said that they've built are like Cassini 1 and 2, which just left the solar system, which would just be barely at where you claim, or you could be the firmament could be. So there's no way there's a firmament that light is reflecting off of, which is way too far away, because we know that it can't be within the realm of the planet, since the planets are actually traveling at those distances and we can literally see them. So I don't know what you mean when you say that there's a firmament thing there.
Well, a lot of this is just letting go of one paradigm and seeing what else we could pick up, seeing how we can look at this in another way. If you look at meteorites, say, you could, divest yourself of this, globe, narrative and think of it as, say, chips off the old firmament. They appear to begin 80 to 100 miles up, 80 to 120 miles up. So perhaps there's some sort of, solid covering there. Also, from the Word of God, the dude who made the thing, we note that the sun, moon, and stars are within the firmament. So it's not too much of a jump, assuming that the Bible is correct and God knows what He's talking about. That the firmament begins, maybe 100 miles up where these meteorites are starting, and then past there you have the sun, moon, and stars and other planets. So maybe we need to look into another cosmology and see exactly what NASA is up to. As you said before, you didn't talk about gravity, but gravity is implicit in your narrative.
No, no, no,
It's
it's not.
talking,
But you said the firmament begins 100 miles up. The moon is about 250,000 miles up. So there can't be a firmament there unless you think there's something behind the firmament, which I don't think you do. I don't think, or do you think that there's a firmament and then the moon and stars and things are behind the firmament and the firmament's like clear?
yeah, the sun, moon, and stars are within the firmament according to the Bible.
Okay,
I go with, what was that?
so the moon is inside of the firmament. So the firmament is farther away than the moon is.
The sun, moon, and stars are within the firmament. That implies that the firmament first, and the sun, moon, and stars beyond that. They'd be further than the firmament. The
Oh,
firmament start, then the sun, moon, and stars would be within the firmament beyond and further than where the firmament starts.
oh, I was misunderstanding when you said that the sun, moon, and stars are within the firmament. I thought it meant like there was the earth, then the sun, moon, and stars, and then the firmament. So you think the firmament is actually before the sun, moon, and stars?
If I meant it the way that you were saying, I'd say they're under the firmament. I
Uh,
think that it's within the firmament. So firmament first, then sun, moon, and stars beyond.
okay.
And we appear to have defense for that with the sun dogs, which look just like the sun shining through a curved glass layer. The pat explanation of ice crystals in the air being the reason for it is weak, because if the ice crystals were doing any reflecting or any refracting, you would see an individual sundog with each of those little ice crystals. It's just weak. I think you tend to see it in colder sections, probably because you're in nice, stable temperature conditions with very little humidity, where you can see the sundog with the firmament very well. But if you look at it, it just looks like the sun shining through a curved glass surface. We have rainbows, we have sundogs, we have meteorites, which can be reinterpreted once you let go of the glow paradigm as solid chunks of the thing chipping off. Um, and we have thunder. It reverberates, it clangs, it sounds like it's echoing inside of a cavity. We have the Schumann resonance, which is basically the vibration of the earth. And when you have vibration, a lot of times that's like sound frequency, a hollow cavity. And
Wait.
we
So,
even
so,
have
so you mentioned thunder. Thunder, it reverberates. Um,
yes,
so the
echoes
s- so the
and
sound, yeah. So the sound would hit the ground, and then it would bounce up and hit the clouds, and then it would bounce up and hit the ground. So you don't need a firmament for that. And if there was a firmament, it would echo at a much different rate. If there was a firmament 100 miles up, and the sound, we know what the speed of sound is 64,000 miles per hour, or whatever. We can calculate how long the instances of the reverberation would be. And so we know that the reverberation caused by thunder is just bouncing off the ground and the clouds. There's no firmament. It's not 100 miles away where the sound is reverberating. It's reverberating from the clouds and the ground. So that doesn't help your case.
hold on. The speed of sound is what? I thought the speed of sound was like 700-800 miles per hour. That's the Mach 1. Mach 1's like
Probably, yeah.
at
Just
7.
guessing.
So 60,000.
343 meters per second.
Be that as it may, you need to have air to transfer sound. Well, you'd still have the wave anyway, even in a vacuum. It's just there's no medium to bring it to your ear. You need sound to bring it to your ear. So all the air
What
is down here.
you said
It
that the
may travel at different rates depending on how much air it's traveling through.
wait you said the vibration would still be in a vacuum somehow?
More than likely. I don't
How?
ascribe to atomism and I don't believe in a vacuum nothingness. There's probably a medium still in there, like ether or the 0 point field. The notion of a vacuum separating matter from atomism is just bunk, because that means that nothing can exist. And so the space narrative just falls apart on its face right there. There is no
What?
vacuum space. There has to be some sort of a medium that is existent. Nothing cannot exist. That's a logical impossibility and that destroys the brain. So it
Right,
has
space
to be a
isn't
medium.
nothing. That's right. Space is not nothing. No one in physics says space is nothing. That's not a thing. Um, but we know that sound is the transition, the vibration caused by molecules. So the sound waves are just vibrations of molecules. So I don't know how the waves could exist if there's in a vacuum that has no molecules, because sound is just the vibration of the molecules. And we know that the sound created by lightning, well, yeah, it is in air. You do need air for that to happen, but the air is all in between the clouds and the land. The vibration doesn't go to space. What you hear isn't it reverberating off of the firmament, it's reverberating off of the clouds. And we can know that for a fact because we can take the speed of sound and measure it, and then like count the time in between the intervals of the the reverberations of the lightning. And so we can know how far away whatever it is that it's like rebounding off of, and we know it's the clouds and the ground. And so because of the time it takes, so it's definitely not the firmament which is causing that,
Well,
unless
I've
it's
been
like
in the fog, which is little more than a cloud on the ground, and the fog doesn't reflect my sound. So, as far as I can tell, that's an unsatisfactory explanation. I would probably junk that for a better explanation, which is it's probably reverberating off of, say, a curved glass firmament. But that's just me.
well, if you're inside the cloud, then everything would reflect it. You'd have to have a difference in densities. You'd have to have a cloud and then a not cloud, and then the sound would have to hit the cloud to reflect back at you when you're not in the cloud. If you're in the cloud, then obviously it would all reflect equally in every distance and then be diffused by the cloud. So that obviously, if you're in the cloud, it wouldn't do that.
Well, there are other possibilities. I prefer to be a polytheorist when it comes to these scientific theories, not just hold to one, just in case this theory is missing something.
Oh, right,
So let's
absolutely.
look
I
at
mean,
the
in
other theories.
science, you're totally right there. In science, there's this thing called the problem of underdetermination, which is that there's infinitely many ways to explain everything. Everything has lots of different ways to explain it. But the reason we can know one explanation is better than the others is that it makes testable predictions. We can say, if this theory is correct, then I can predict there's going to be this thing that's going to happen if we do this test. And if that happens, if we say, well, I'm going to predict this result, and then we don't know what's going to happen, and then we test it and it does happen, well, that's good evidence that whatever theory could predict that is the right one. And so if the other theories didn't make that same prediction, they're not as good. And the globe model does that a lot.
Well, the thing is, we've already had the atomism, at the very least, of the heliocentric model tested and found wanting. When they were
What do
testing
you
the
what do you
speed
mean?
of galaxies, they found that they were spinning way too fast for Newtonian rules to apply. Basically, if these were solid, matter swirling up there, it shouldn't be spinning this fast. It's spinning much faster than it normally would. Otherwise, all these forces would threaten to, have the galaxy fall apart. So what did they do? Did they say maybe we're wrong about assuming that these things that we're seeing up in the sky are solid Newtonian things, and maybe there's something like ethereal matter that doesn't tend to take a form since our numbers aren't working out? What did they do? They kept their assumption and said, okay, we're going to write a workaround. We're going to write the cosmological constant and basically cobble up some dark matter that should be there, to make these equations work, but we're really not seeing it. So that's where the rubber meets the road with these theories. The fork in the road where it's like, do we drop this theory because it's not working, or do we write workarounds for it to maintain it? And it
Well,
looks like, because of materialism, atomism, and I'd just go ahead and say atheism, they're willing to write any materialistic workaround they have to make these theories, which aren't working, somewhat work.
well, that's kind of how science works, is that if you have a theory and it explains as much as you can, then you discover something new, and then you have to make a new theory. And then if that new theory, you assume, well, if it's right, then I'm going to make predictions that I don't know yet. And then we're going to test those other predictions, which is like a different related thing. It's not just explaining the stuff you already know. It's saying, so here's something we don't know yet. And we're going to make a prediction about what happens when we discover that. And if we can predict it correctly, then that's a good reason to believe this new theory is correct. It's not just explaining old information. Like if we discovered that that galaxies are spinning faster than they should be, that's new information we don't know yet. And then everybody gets to make a theory. So you could say a supernatural theory, you could say a non-physical theory, you can say an ether if you want to. That's totally fine. And then Einstein comes along and makes his general relativity theory and the dark matter theory, which I don't know why you're invoking the cosmological constant there, but the reason we go with that theory is because that theory makes predictions. It says, here's a reason why that happens, which has to do with the mass level in the galaxies. And there's some extra mass there. And we can test, well, if there's extra mass there, then the light curvature around the universe will actually be a greater amount than what we would expect if there was no extra mass there. There wasn't this hidden mass. And if we say if that is the case, then we should be able to test this and see that the curvature around the galaxies is actually more than what we expected. And when we tested that, we found out, oh, that's right. So this new theory we came up of dark matter makes a prediction about something else we didn't know, and it got the prediction right. So we didn't just explain away the old data. We used that new explanation to make a new prediction, and this new prediction gave us new knowledge that we didn't have before. And that's why we believe that that one's correct. If your theory did that, then your theory would be the better one, but it doesn't. It's the globe model that makes those future predictions.
Well, the problem is, it appears that there's little to no actual predictive power in this model. It's mostly just rhetoric, and
Well,
it
it
is a
wasn't what the
philosophical framework for materialism, atheism, and walking away from the ancient scriptures. They said that they were able to predict the existence of the planet Neptune. The thing that you don't hear about when you read the book King's Dethroned, which goes over a myriad of incorrect assumptions on which astronomy is based, was they didn't predict the right period and they didn't predict the right orbit. They were off. They did get that there was a planet there. Okay, that's great, but their math was off. And so
Uh,
at that point, you see that the heliocentric model gives minimal predictability, if anything at all. And at best, they just glommed the functionality of the past from geocentrism onto their new preferred model, but the emperor really has no clothes.
um, okay, but that wasn't the example I used. I didn't say anything about Neptune. I said we could measure the curvature of light around galaxies to explain the dark matter, if dark matter is what's causing the galaxies to spin faster, then we can predict with a high level of accuracy the amount that the light curving around the galaxies is going to curve. And we can get that like exactly correct, like 99.99999 something percent correct. So it makes extremely exact predictions that we know are correct. And it makes predictions on all kinds of things, and not just those. Like general relativity made predictions about gravitational waves, which it got right. General relativity made predictions about signal transfer, like to satellites, in which it got right. And general relativity made predictions about the curvature of light around the sun, which it got right. There's lots and lots of predictions. I mean, that's all science does, is make predictions. If they had limited predictive power, then it would be useless. That's the problem in quantum mechanics right now, is that all the different interpretations make no new predictions, so no one cares. They're just useless in science until there's no consensus on which one is right, because none of them make predictions. The reason we accept general relativity and the globe model is because it does. Those make tons of predictions, which we have confirmed over and over and over and over again. And they make them and get them right at a higher degree of accuracy than any of the alternatives. Like the flat Earth model doesn't make predictions, or if it does, none of them have been confirmed, which is the problem, which is why no one accepts it. If you did, that would be evidence of the flat Earth model.
Well, the problem is general relativity endows space with physical properties by talking about space time curvature and saying that the speed of light, which was unchangeable in special relativity, can change in general relativity. Now, if space has properties, that sounds a whole lot like the ether. And it sounds even more like the ether in that space is physical and can curve. Curving is a physical operation. So there goes atomism's demand for space to be a vacuum right there. Because if it can curve, it can straighten. It can curve, straighten, curve, straighten, curve, straighten, and there you have a wave right there. And when the
Right.
ether was accepted as a logical endpoint for all of these fields that we have everywhere back in Michelson Morley's day, they tried to test the speed of the Earth through the ether. And this is where the rub is and why they abolished the ether. They couldn't get enough of an ether drag speed to justify the assumption of the Earth moving through it. So Copernicanism was in danger. So they had a choice. They could accept the existence of the ether, but admit that it probably doesn't show the Earth is moving and at best it's geocentric, or abolish the ether to maintain the atheism, the materialism, the Darwinism, the Marxism, and all the other political ideologies that stem from Copernicanism, unseating us from the center of God's creation and being obviously created, loved, and having a purpose from God, not man. So they made a decision and they chose B.
No, I mean, Darwinism has nothing to do with cosmology. Cosmology does nothing for Darwinism. Like whether or not we're a ball or not doesn't change evolution. So I mean, those theories have nothing to do with each other in that sense. They're completely separate. But again, the reason they chose this was the Michelson-Morley experiment was exactly that system that I explained earlier, where we have something we don't know. You make predictions and you say, if my theory is correct, here's what the results are going to be. And they had two different hypotheses. They had the Aether hypothesis, which I really liked, actually. I thought it was a really interesting hypothesis. And then they had like the different hypothesis that there isn't an Aether, that there is no thing. And they said, well, if there's an Aether, then we can expect to see this level of change. And when they tested it, they found it didn't occur. So that means their theory was wrong. Now, maybe there's a different aether theory they could come up with. You can always just change the theory to make it fit. It's called ad hoc reasoning. And it's part of the problem of underdetermination. You can always make a theory fit the data. The problem is that their theory, what they thought was going to happen, got it wrong. They looked at the data. They said, given this data, we can explain this using the aether that has these properties. And if it has these properties, then here's a different thing that it's going to do that we're going to see. And they didn't see it. So that means their aether theory was wrong. Now, maybe there's a different one you can make up. You can always make up a new one. But the theory that got it right was general relativity. It made the predictions and got it right. Now, if you had come up with an aether theory that is a different aether theory, and you can predict a new thing that we haven't discovered yet and say, if my aether exists, here is a prediction that we don't know yet, that no one in physics knows yet, and I can predict it, and we can test it, and we discover that you're right, then that's evidence of your model. You win. You now have the best model in physics because you predicted something no one else can. But if you can't do that, well, then the last theory that could is the one that's right. It's the best theory, and it's the general relativity model. It was the one that can make the predictions. None of the other ones can. The alternatives can't. That's why general relativity is accepted as the best, because it's the only one that does it. In science, it's just all we do is accept whichever model makes the testable prediction. We don't care how crazy it is. Like when you say that um, space-time bending is contrary to materialism, well, no, it's not, because space-time is material. It is a kind of thing in the general relativity model. Now, maybe you want to explain space-time as a non-material thing, and that's totally fine. You can do that, but then your new theory has to make new predictions. The predictions Einstein made, where he said space-time is material, those worked. So his theory is the one we accept because he could use it to make predictions. The fact that you can explain it in a different way doesn't matter unless you can make new predictions.
Well, the thievery was turning the ether into space time because they had to abolish it because of its geocentric implications. It appears what they did was they changed the data to match the theory, namely the theory of Copernicanism. They needed
What do you
30
mean?
kilometers per second of ether drift to even begin to justify the notion of the Earth moving through the ether. Now, they did get a positive ether drift. Unfortunately, it was too low. It was 8 to 15 kilometers per second, if that. So they had way too little ether to justify the Earth moving through it. At best, it was swirling gently over an unmoving Earth. So they had a problem. Drop Copernicanism or admit the ether exists, admit the ether exists and drop Copernicanism, or abolish it and come up with a totally different cosmology with space time, and all this other stuff, despite the fact that gravity, basically stole the ether. At first, it was pulling to the center of mass, and then it became the curvature of space time. Where the hell was that? Gravity was predicated on atomism. It was predicated on pulling masses away from the void and toward a center of gravity. And now the void itself, space, is endowed with physical properties where it can curve. This is theft. This is just
No, 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 no,
ridiculous.
no,
They
no.
just
Again,
got rid of it just to avoid having to drop Copernicanism, and that's bad
no, no. It
science.
has nothing to do with Copernicanism. Again, people who believed in the ether, they don't really care one way or the other. They just wanted to prove the ether, and so they made a test and they got it wrong, and so they dropped the ether because their test was wrong. But general relativity, like in science, you can make up whatever you want, any theory, doesn't matter how crazy it is. Bending space-time, magic fairies, no one cares. You can make up anything you want, including a flat earth with an aether, a Bible-driven cosmology. If you can do that and make predictions, then you're right. The problem is that you can't. The reason we accept the Copernicanism model, or the geocentric model, or the heliocentric model, and general relativity, and the fact the world is a ball, is because those made the predictions and got it right. We don't actually care if the world is flat or not. It doesn't make a difference. Most people on the planet don't know anything about the Bible. They don't care. They're just doing science because it makes predictions. So they're not rejecting it to try and fit the biblical model. Many of them believed in the biblical model. Many of them adopted Christianity. Many of them were people who took the Bible literally, and then they lost their faith because the facts proved it wrong. It's not to try and maintain a belief in atheism, because they were Christian, and then they found out that the Christian model failed, and then they left Christianity. So it's not to maintain atheism. Most of them were and still are Christians. So that doesn't make any sense. And again, the only reason we accept the globe model is because it makes predictions. That's it. That's the only reason. It doesn't have anything to do with the Bible. We don't care about the Bible. All we care about is what makes predictions. And if it makes predictions, doesn't matter how crazy it is, even if it's the biblical driven model or Hinduism, if it makes predictions, gets them right, that's what we accept. No exceptions. Don't care if it's the Bible or Satanism or Hinduism or anything. If it makes predictions, we accept it without exception.
But these predictions aren't really panning out. Even Einstein had to change special relativity, outright
Wait,
denied an ether.
oh, that was
And
another thing I wanted to bring up on. Like,
speed of light
wait,
didn't
wait.
change and go back and backpedal for general relativity, which said light speed could change and space had properties.
Well, no,
That is
there was no change there.
just
So so so
slow,
so wait. So
suspicious.
no, no,
And
no, no,
once
no,
you
no.
see
Stop.
inconsistency,
One sec,
you
one
can
sec.
ferret out a liar.
Well, no, there was no change there. He didn't change general and special relativity. Those are specifically different things for different instances. They're still both correct. There was no change there. Like, I don't know what you're talking about when you say that
How can you
Einstein.
have the special and general when in special light is the fastest thing in the universe, and in general light speed can change due to the curvature of space time?
Because
How,
special
how does those
relativity,
two things gel with each other? In special, ether is denied, which basically says space has no properties, and in general, space can curve, giving it
no,
properties.
no, no, no,
These are
no.
unresolvable.
No, they're different things. It's like if I say light when like if I said a baseball when thrown through the air is going to travel at a different speed than the baseball when thrown through the ocean. I mean, well, obviously because there's more resistance. Special relativity is light when it has no resistance. General relativity is light when it has resistance. Those are the differences. There's no contradiction. They're not incompatible. They're just
I would only have no resistance in a vacuum, assuming a vacuum can exist. That says philosophically that nothing can exist. At that point, the mind is
no,
destroyed
no, no,
because
no.
nothing can exist and something can exist.
No,
That's
no, again,
unresolvable.
stop. So special relativity just says this is how light would act if it was in a perfect vacuum. He never said it was in a perfect vacuum. He never said light actually travels at this exact speed at any point because it's never in a perfect vacuum. It's always in space-time. So the point of general relativity is just for the pure math of a stable reference point of what light would do if not being interacted in anything else. Like the Newton's law of motion, an object in motion remains in motion. Is there actually an object in motion that is never going to be interacted with? Well, no, obviously, because things hit it. But that's just an abstract idea to use as a model. That's special relativity. It's not actually a thing. You're not actually saying light actually travels at this speed in space at some point. Like, obviously, it's going through space time, which is why he created general relativity. The general relativity is the pragmatic application. Special relativity is the idealized, this is what it would do if nothing was interacting with it.
Well, in that case, if there was a vacuum, but you're saying there's not a vacuum, why are we holding on to this atomistic notion of a vacuum if a vacuum can't even exist? Even that is, untenable. I
Because your
mean, none of this
definition,
stuff is untenable. This stuff destroys the mind and keeps it from being able to do, other, logical science, because
well,
the mind is not expecting
can I answer?
anything in space at all.
So your definition of a vacuum is absolute nothing. No one in physics defines a vacuum that way. No one in physics says a vacuum is absolute nothing. So when you say why do people say there's a vacuum, well, their definition of a vacuum is very different than your definition of a vacuum. So
So it's a vacuum then.
no, in physics, a vacuum is something different than what you're thinking. When you think of a vacuum, you
So
think of
what is a
absolute
vacuum?
nothing. There
Yeah,
is
so
no
what's a
absolute
vacuum?
nothing.
Okay, so what's a vacuum?
It's well, in physics it has a technical definition, but it's about the amount of energy in space-time as space-time is actually a physical thing. So it is actually a thing.
So if there's energy in the vacuum, why is it called a vacuum? If
That's
there's something in the vacuum, why is it called a vacuum?
that's just how physics gives things names. Like physics called an atom, certain things were called an atom. An atom in Greek is defined as the smallest constituent part. But then we discovered atoms were actually made of protons and neutrons and electrons. But we didn't call it something new just because we discovered that our naming system was wrong. Science makes up new names all the time. So we assumed it was a vacuum when it was originally named in the Greek, essentially, that there was just nothingness there. We got proved wrong. We just kept the name vacuum because that's how science works. Like we call the universe, which again, just using the etymological basis of the term means everything that exists. Then we discovered, oh wait, there's these multiverses theories of there's could be other universes, but we didn't just change the name of the universe. We just adopted a new label. So in science, we adopt labels that don't necessarily match 100%, like atom and universe and vacuum all the time. There's no, it's not meant to mean the vacuum doesn't mean there's literally nothing there. No one in physics believes that.
So there's stuff in the vacuum. So a
Yes.
vacuum can suck. A vacuum can do stuff. A vacuum has
Um,
properties.
yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we just go with the ether? The
Uh,
vacuum tends to have a connotation of a void with nothing there.
right.
Why would
That's
that label when that connotation is incorrect?
because that's just how science works. So again, in science, you get to make up whatever name you want for whatever it is you're talking about. So when scientists, like when people came up with the idea of atoms, like I think it was Ludwig Boltzmann was one of the original proponents of the atomic theory and discoverer of the atom. He called this the atom because he thought it was the smallest constituent part, that there was nothing small of it. This is the base form of everything, which is just what the word atom means in Greek. But then we discovered there are smaller things. But why do we still call protons and neutrons and electrons atoms? Because that's just what he called them. Like we don't actually care if the connotation isn't correct. It's just the name he called them when he discovered them. So we just keep the name because he discovered them. So that's what we do. So when people talk about the vacuum, it was originally meant as an empty kind of nothingness, like what you're describing. But then we discovered it's not, just like we did for atom. And we just still call it the vacuum because that's just what they do in physics. It's not like it matters one way or the other. It just, we just discovered that what we called the vacuum has these other properties. Just like what we called the atom is actually made of smaller things. There's no contradiction there in science. It's just how science works.
Well, the thing is, this is inconsistent science. There's no overarching philosophy to really even guide this. Even the
Uh,
protons,
what do you mean?
neutrons, electrons that you're talking about, as far as I've heard, they haven't been consistently proven. They were theorized, but you can't give me a jar of electrons. You can't give me a jar of protons. You can't give me a jar of neutrons. They're just theorized. And even the people that made our electrical system, Steinmetz, Tesla, even Faraday and others, wouldn't even ascribe to the electron quant an electron like pebble particle. They thought in terms of fields. They thought in terms of not this atomistic pebble, but a field that was basically everywhere. Even Tesla referred to the firmament by name in one of his quotes. So this atomistic concept appears to chain the brain to this notion of this pebble that we're looking for that may not even exist. Perhaps we need a much more flexible paradigm, like say the fluid ether, which disproves that the Earth is moving and comes from another seemingly more geocentric conception.
Well, if you can make testable predictions with it, then go ahead and we'll accept it. The problem is that it doesn't. So the point of the proton and the neutron is, well, we can actually give you a jar full of neutrons. It's called a neutron star. We have actually separated protons and neutrons, and we can actually put all of the protons in one jar and all the neutrons in another jar. Electrons are more like waves than particles. They're not necessarily particles. So those would be more like waves. But we can actually demonstrate protons and electrons and neutrons and neutrinos. Like we can physically demonstrate them so that you can see them and give you a jar full of them if you want. That's we can do that.
I doubt that. I would probably say that at best they are overlapping waves of the fluid vortex ether, and you're just seeing whirlpool vortices that occasionally look like this particle, that particle, a proton here, a neutron here, a lepton here, a quark here, just temporary manifestations of a dynamic fluid ether at best,
How
but
is
not
that
these
different from a
atomistic
basketball?
pebbles. How's what different than a basketball?
Like a proton or a neutron, you said that it's like a fluctuation of the ether or whatever. Like it's
Vortices, whirlpools in the ether medium,
right.
temporary whirlpools, vortices at best, but nothing that necessarily has a permanent essence as this, marble of a proton, neutron, or electron, a flexible manifestation, if that,
Well,
of
I
the.
mean, protons are made of other things like quarks, just like basketballs are made of protons, but we still consider basketballs to be solid objects. They're not like fluctuations of vortices and space-time, or the ether. So, I mean, how is a proton or a neutron different than a basketball?
Well, you need to put it in a jar first for your atomistic conception to even work. As far as I can
What?
tell, nobody can put a jar of electron pebbles in a jar of, make a jar of proton pebbles,
No,
neutron
we
pebbles,
can
quark
literally do that.
pebbles, leptons. As far as I can tell, nobody's ever done that. So the atomism that your theory is predicated on is highly theoretical and specious, as far as I can tell.
No, no,
We
we can take protons and neutrons and put them in jars. We've done that. We can do that.
Really? How
Yes.
many did they put in the jar?
I you want me just to Google it and see if I can give you a number? I have no idea.
Sure. I just want to make sure that your interpretation of what happened is actually correct with the conception, because I frankly don't believe that that's ever happened. I challenge atomism totally as this, like Ken Wheeler said, a cult of bumping particles,
Well, it's
where they're
called
looking
atomic
for,
fission. I mean,
the
it's just
fundamental particle that underlies everything, when maybe you need to look for a fluid, flexible ether medium that is everywhere.
it's called fusion and fission. That's the name of the process, and we have these things called fission and fusion reactors where we literally do this. So we literally tear them apart and separate them and really put them in jars. They're just giant fields of what is it? Plasma. Because they're so hot, we can't actually put them in a jar. They melt the jars. We do put them in plasma jars. Yeah, we do actually do this. It's called fission and fusion.
So the jar is the plasma field medium?
Yeah, so you use plasma, you use superheated particles in order to contain other particles that are doing the interaction. So it's like the jar. It's not actually a physical jar because it would melt like glass or something. So the we create a plasma outside of the interaction to contain the interaction, and that's the jar.
Oh, fascinating. I'd have to see it.
Okay. You just Google atomic fusion reactors.
Huh. Well, getting back to the shape of the Earth being probably something flat and not curved, there are other ways that math, in particular, is not the globe's friend. Supposedly, we're on a globe
Did
of
you say math?
math. Yes, math. We're supposed to be on a globe of 24,901 miles in circumference at the equator, which would at the equator lead to roughly 8 inches per mile squared of curvature. But that's only at the equator. At different latitudes, you have a circle band of latitude that's even smaller. So you get even more dramatic curvature per mile squared, up to and beyond 3 feet per mile squared at 80 degrees latitude. And also, at the equator, you have 69 miles per degree, but at, say, 80 degrees latitude, you have 15 miles per degree. So you would see dramatic changes in curvature depending on whether it's curving this way or curving that way. But we don't appear to see that. We don't even appear to see prima facie evidence of curvature. The horizon is flat. Nothing seems to tilt forward like it would over a ball. We don't see any curve to the horizon. And when we do laser tests and long distance infrared imaging, we can see much further and longer than we should with no hump of Earth curvature in the way. We see up to 1,000 miles with infrared. And when we do long distance, laser tests like, 20, 30, miles, there's no globe hump of Earth curvature in the way blocking, lasers that are low to the ground hitting another target. So we're not seeing anything that is matching this globe assumption. And if we're not a ball making, orbit making heliocentric gravity is in serious jeopardy.
Well, we do actually see curvature pretty consistently everywhere. I mean, it's not the same everywhere because it's the globe isn't an actual perfect ball. It's an oblate spheroid, so it is different in different places. It's not a perfect ball, but that's not a problem at all. I don't know why that would be a problem. Um, but we can actually test all of those things and see, yeah, this is perfectly consistent with the globe model because, again, the globe model makes the testable predictions that are right. So we can say, if we live on a globe and if this is the constant of the density of the gas and the curvature of the light around the gas and the level of the trajectory of the refraction, then we can predict exactly what it's going to look like. And the globe model gets that right every single time. So, I mean, every one of the predictions that we make and of that what we see when we look at the horizon and when we point a laser or do a infrared test or do any kind of interferometer or thermal testing of any kind, the globe model gets it right everywhere at all times in all places, 100% anywhere in the world. If you take the globe model math, it will predict exactly what you see and you'll get the right answer. So the fact that you don't anticipate that's what you would expect, well, it doesn't make a difference because that's exactly what we expect on the globe model. So it seems like what you're doing is you're saying if you assume that the world is a globe, then you would assume that you can't see that far, when really, if you can, because of just how light refracts in the globe model. But the reason we know or we believe that the globe model is correct is because it makes testable predictions which are correct. It doesn't just, it's not just able to explain all the stuff we already know and we already see. It explains the stuff we don't know yet and can get it right. That's why the globe model is better than the flat earth model. The flat earth model can't do that. It's never done that. In science, it's always about what are the future predictions? What new information can we gain with this model? And if this model can make future predictions, then it's the best model. Nothing else can compete. It wins hands down. The globe model does this. And we've talked about a whole bunch of different instances, especially from Einstein in our conversation so far, but you haven't presented any kind of predictions that the flat earth model can make. And that's kind of the problem, is that in science, we need those to be able to show that one theory is right. Like if you see a cup fall over, like there are lots of ways to explain how the cup fell over. Maybe somebody bumped the table, maybe it was the wind, maybe it was a squirrel or a bird or fairies, leprechauns, invisible aliens, could be anything. But the way we find out which one is correct is that you say, if my hypothesis is correct, here is something I'm going to predict that we don't know yet, and we can go check and see. And if we get it right, that's a good reason to believe this explanation is the right one. And the globe model does that and it gets it right every time we check. But I don't think the flat earth has ever done that.
Well, the thing is, it appears it's more accurate to say all of the predictability was from a geocentric cosmology, where at the very least the Earth was at the center in a stable zone of observation. Heliocentrism would actually be expected to give you less predictability, not more, because now you have the Earth moving along with everything else, and you don't know where the center of mass is to make any prediction in absolute space with everything moving. You would have less predictability, not more. So, as far as I can tell, the predictability is rhetorical, but not actual. And most models act as if it is a flat, level plane. You'll see it in avionics, model made as though it were a flat, level plane. You'll see it in government documents, even from NASA, even, model made with the assumption of or raised basically as if there was a flat level plane. Even refraction, which is used to explain why we're seeing much further than we should be over a ball, effectively gives you a refractive K value, which makes the radius of the Earth larger and, for all intents and purposes, flattens it out. And so, logically, you can see the truth being approached that is probably flat by this behavior alone. And even in the black swan photo that's been making the rounds in flat Earth circles, there's a picture of two oil rigs, where you can see the horizon beyond the two oil rigs 10 miles away. And the observer is about 1 foot off of the ground, 5 feet. I think they say it's 5 feet, 1 foot effective or whatever. But basically, the horizon is way too far out, even for these globe predictions that you're touting, because by the formula 1.22 times the square root of the height in feet above the surface, that should give you the distance to the horizon roughly on your globe model, which would make the horizon no more than 1 to 3 miles out, but you see the horizon 10 miles out. No
Wait,
amount
wait.
of
So,
refraction that
so
I know of is going to move the horizon from 2 to 3 miles out to 10 miles in the black swan photo. So your model can't even predict that.
well,
And
no. So
I've been
every photo,
asking globers left and
every
right, what refraction does this? What are their numbers? They throw out some random refraction value that is way too high for the prevailing conditions. It's just ad hoc nonsense. It's that's there's no predictability here. This is just
well,
rhetoric.
again, we've already talked about the predictions that have been made, like the curvature of light, the dark matter predictions, Einstein's general relativity, the curvature of space time. The You mentioned Neptune, the orbit of Mars, the bending around light around the sun. Those are predictions. Every single one of them. Those are unbelievably detailed, excellent predictions that no other model made, and they were right. And there's lots and lots of other ones. So every picture ever taken on Earth, all of the things we see have all been predicted accurately by the heliocentric model. All the predictions are explained by just the globe Earth model correctly, every single one of them. Um, but the problem is when you first said that the heliocentric model, you said we would expect to have less predictability. Now I don't know if that would be true or not, but if we grant it, if we expect the heliocentric model to have less predictability, but in reality we get more predictions from it, that would be even better evidence that the heliocentric model is correct because it's the one that gives us the predictions. And if we would expect it to give us less and it's the only one giving us predictions, that's really good evidence that it's the right one. Like, as far as I know, there are no predictions on the flat Earth model. Like, you can't predict anything new on it. Like, you haven't. Maybe you can. I don't know. But no one has ever used the flat Earth model to make, here's a prediction of a test we can do to get a result and then get that right. And there's lots you could do. Like, for example, you could say, if we buy a plane and fly it over the Atlantic or something, we'll get to the edge of the Earth or to the firmament or something. And if you did that, you did that experiment, you got it to work, that would be great evidence of the flat Earth. But no one's done it. Like, if you said that the firmament is at this distance, 100 miles or whatever, and you bought a weather balloon and you sent it up 100 miles and it hit the firmament, that would be great evidence of the firmament. But no one's done it. I mean, that's all you need to do is just say, I predict the firmament is going to be here. Here's a test how we can verify that. Do the test, verify the firmament, and boom, flat Earth model takes over the world. But no one's ever done that. No one's ever had any successful predictions with the flat Earth model.
Well, people have done that, and a rocket did appear to hit something 70 miles out over Arizona, but they're coming up with, what sound like these weak excuses, talking about yo-yo spin and all this stuff, stopping the rocket. Frankly, as far as I can see, these rockets may not even be fully solid. They may be pliant, fluffy balloons with a whole lot of rocket fuel behind them, because I saw a old 1950s black and white photo of a rocket crumpling like it was a balloon. And even Owen Benjamin was looking at a launch from a recent rocket launch, where basically you see the rocket bobbing up and down in ways that a solid rocket never would do with its tensile strength, probably falling apart from this heavy rocket bobbing up and down the way you see it in the photo. It looks like a balloon. So I think we've been duped. We've been heavily duped. And we really need to see what the hell is going on with these models. What are these scientists really talking about? Are they giving us real science, or are they giving us bull to make a lie out of the scriptures, walk away from the Bible, and basically prop up man's vain doctrines? We really need to make sure that we're not getting played here.
Right. I agree. And the way we do that is with testable predictions. Like, that's all. That's the only way. The only way to verify truth is, can you make testable predictions? Can you say, if my theory is right, here's something we don't know, we're going to predict it, and if we get it right, that's good evidence. Like, when you mentioned the rockets bending like a balloon, you see the same effect with an arrow. If you take an arrow and you shoot it out of a high pressure, like 80-pound bow, and you videotape it in slow motion, you can see the same wobbling like a balloon in the arrow, just because of the rate at which the force travels and the bending rate of the arrow. And the same thing applies to metals and the tensile strength of the rocket, because it's being shot so fast and so powerfully by the rocket on the back end. You would see the same fluctuation, so it's going to look like a balloon. There's not a problem there. That's just how solids work when you shoot them really fast. But again, I agree with what you said, where you said we have to find a way to make sure they're not deceiving us and just either going away from the Bible. If that was their motive, that's not a good motive. Like, it doesn't matter if the Bible is true or not. All that matters is what is the truth. And the way we discover the truth is testable predictions. And as far as I know, again, the flat Earth model hasn't made any. Like, if you could find us, give me a location, like a satellite GPS location I can go to and touch the firmament, you win. Flat earthers win. You've done it. You've defeated the globe. Just give me a GPS location where I can go on a boat or a plane or whatever and just touch the firmament wherever it goes on the earth, or show me the edge of the earth. You win. I mean, it's super easy. Like, doing that would be unbelievably easy. Copernicus could have done that on his boat. um, Anybody could just do that if the flat earth model is true, and you win. But no one's done it, and I mean, that's kind of a problem, because there's such an easy way to verify flat earth, and if you could do it, you would win all kinds of money and fame for doing this, because you just topple every world scientist ever. And you'd be like the greatest genius and of all time, but no one's done it. I mean, it's like if you said there's $1 billion on 6th Street, all you have to do is go pick it up. But apparently no one's gone and pick it up. I mean, I'm not really going to believe that, because it's so easy to show that that would be true. You just go just go buy a Ferrari. The same thing applies to flat earth. It's so easy to show if the flat earth was true. Just give me a location to go touch the firmament. But no one's done it. Why do you think that is?
Well, I personally go with the Hebrew cosmology flat Earth. That's just me. There's other models out there, but I go with that with some sort of A.E. Gleason map on top. Now, there are zones that satellites do not cover in the North and South Pole that are conspicuously missing on some of the maps. So, assuming we have all of the pieces of land accurately mapped, I really don't assume that. But assuming that's the case, the North Pole would be in the center with the continents radiating out, surrounded by the oceans, with a ring of Antarctic ice about 40 to 60,000 miles in miles in circumference, if the voyages of Captain Cook are to be believed, where he clocked over 40 to 60,000 miles over 3 years of trying to circumnavigate Antarctica with all of his voyages. So that alone makes a different model where there's more land beyond, with possibly a firmament touching down somewhere beyond Antarctica. There's an Antarctic treaty that prohibits any non-government sanctioned exploration of the continent. You have to go through government bodies that are signatories to the treaty before you can go down there. You can't take scientific equipment. You can't take, stuff without their, permission. And it really makes exploration difficult to see if, say, there's a firmament touching down past here, more land or whatever. If say meteorites or chips off the old firmament or whatever, they begin 80 to 120 miles up, that would put the firmament around that, far away at, I guess, the highest point, maybe higher, with the sun, moon, and stars in the firmament, according to the scriptures, with waters above under the heavenly throne of God. And then the land would be thick with underground caverns on pillars on top of a watery deep, and unmoving, geocentric, stationary, with the sun, moon, and stars, moving over and around us and probably smaller than the Earth.
So I just Googled flights to the South Pole. You can buy them just like flights to anywhere, and just go exploring, bring your own stuff. They have gear there. You can just rent it, like a motor, any type of vehicle you want with as much fuel as you want. And you can just go wherever you want. They're not going to stop you. It's not like the government has stuff there to stop you. They don't have bases there. They're just, the treaties are just for other governments. They don't actually care if people go there for any reason. You can do whatever you want. So I mean,
Well,
you can just buy
go
a
there,
ticket.
but yeah, you can go there, but you're going to be prohibited as to what you can do there. You go
No,
where the government tells you. I
no.
doubt you would be able to explore the 40 to 60,000 mile rim, as it were.
Well, you don't need to explore the entire rim. You just need to go out in any one direction. So I mean, you could just rent a truck, any of the trucks used there, and just drive and get as much fuel as you want, and just drive in any one direction straight to find the firmament, and that would be all you would need. Like, and they're not going to stop you. Like, they're not going to stop you from renting a truck to drive. Like, they don't have like outposts every 5 miles that would take literally everyone. If your numbers are correct, they would have to have like everyone on the planet to hold hands to just stop you from going around in anywhere on the South Pole, which doesn't make any sense. So all you have to do is buy a ticket to the South Pole, rent a truck, get some gas and just drive to the firmament, and you've proven everyone wrong. You win. You would get paid millions of dollars for that.
One sec. Before anybody goes to the South Pole, we are going to let you know, folks, it's a 2-minute warning before we go to Q&A. So, gentlemen, we got about 2 minutes left. At some point, one of you would make my job easier if you'd be willing to give the other the last word, as it's open conversation. And so we are very thankful to have you guys here, and we definitely have a lot of awesome questions for you.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one thing. Like, you can get a solo expedition to the South Pole. Just go alone and rent a truck. I mean, the government doesn't stop you. They literally just give you the option to buy tickets for that. Just go alone. So, I mean, they're not going to stop you.
Well, the main thing is we're not getting consistent threads of this narrative. The laser test and the thousands of miles of infrared show flat, level land. Any obstruction that we do see can easily be explained by perspective alone, with the top part of your vision essentially sandwiching into the bottom part of your vision right at your eye line. Stuff above your eye line appears to come down and converge, but no further. Stuff below your eye line appears to come up and converge, sandwiched together, just like the train tracks, but no further. If it went past the midpoint of your vision, you would not be able to make spatial relationships out of the world at all, because potentially something that's above you physically would appear to be below you, and something that's below you physically would appear to be above you, and vice versa. When this stuff sandwiches, you could interpret it as globe curvature obstructing what's in the way, but really it may just be the top and bottom part of your vision sandwiching. And since your eye tends to want to deal with things in a symmetrical fashion, it's going to want even convergence up and down. If you're 6 feet, you're going to get even convergence 6 feet up from your eye line, 6 feet down from your eye line, about 3 to 6 miles out, but no further. And anything that's taller, like a 100-foot skyscraper or a huge mountain, will just have to set into that convergence zone where everything smushes down to a horizon line beyond, because the space isn't available. Just logic and optics right there destroy the globe.
Well, I mean, again, you can always explain all of the past evidence by any explanation. It's called the problem of underdetermination. In order to prove a hypothesis correct, you need to explain something new. So the fact that you can explain all of this other stuff that the globe has already explained doesn't do anything for your hypothesis. Just go find the firmament and you win. That's all you need to do, and it shouldn't be that hard. I mean, the amount of money that flat earthers spend to do all these tests, just buy a trip to South Pole and rent a truck. You could prove everyone wrong pretty easily for less money and less time than all of these other wacky experiments that are being performed about looking at long distances, which are also already explained by the globe. All you need to do is just find one thing that the globe, that one prediction that the flat earth makes that the globe doesn't, like the firmament. Find that and you win. Or go to the Antarctic and just drive around the equator and see if you can get, like, from Australia to South America, or pretty close to it. Then you win if you could do that. The problem is that you can't. I mean, there's so many really easy ways to prove the flat earth right, but no one's done it. You always go with these really obscure vision tests, which are already explained by the globe model. I mean, to prove a hypothesis right, you need something new. And it would be really easy to do that on a globe model. So, I mean, if I believed it, I would just immediately go to the South Pole and try to find the firmament, because then I'd be a millionaire overnight. But no one does it.
Whichever one of you is ready to give the last word to the other, we will go into the Q&A. Do you feel okay with wrapping up and going to the Q&A, Lemon?
I'm ready for the
Q&A. Me too.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you very much, folks. Excited to read through your questions and comments. It's always a good time. And so also want to let you know, whether you be flat earth, globe earth, Christian, atheist, Republican, Democrat, we hope you feel welcome here, as we are a nonpartisan platform. So we do want to welcome people no matter what walk of life you're from. There's always debating and a little bit of joshing going on in the live chat. Please don't take it personal. We are pretty laissez-faire about the live chat, so sometimes it gets a little brutal. A little bit crazy. Well, I don't know what that was. But,
sorry about that.
no, that's okay. So, with that, very excited, folks. We will be jumping right into these questions. And so, thanks so much. First one is from TJump. No, from Twitch Loken16. Thanks for your super chat. They say TJump wins again. You have a fan out there, Tom. Next, Michael Dresden, thanks for your super chat, who says, Tom Jump already lost. Oh, boy. All right. Steven Steen, thanks for your super chat. He says, Tom is NASA black site counter ops.
Yep, that's what my shirt is. The NASA Black Site Counter Ops. That's right.
Very nice. Michael McCaffrey, thanks for your super chat. Says, thanks for everything you do, James and me and MDD. Thanks so much. That means a lot, Michael. Always encouraging to have you here. Appreciate the kind words. Mickey Rush, thanks for your super chat. He said, we legally stand on sidewalk with signs during recess. Gotcha. It's legal. Thanks for that. C4 Mockingbird, you said the earth is measurably flat like the POS. Oh, okay. Piece of poop. Nathan Thompson says, who and when measured it to be flat? Thanks for that super chat, C4.
FE Core did a 25-mile laser test and found that it was flat and level, and were able to hit a target that was no more than like 10 feet off the ground when there should be a hump of Earth curvature in the way. As you know, you get roughly 8 inches per mile squared of curvature, at least at the equator, where the amount of curvature would be the very least. And the best case for the ball standpoint, it would get worse and worse if you go to different latitudes, east-west, with up to 3 feet per mile squared of curvature up at 80 degrees latitude. But 8 inches per mile squared is a fairly decent approximation for what you should see at the equator. So you take 25 miles over the distance of Lake Balaton, where they did the laser tests, square that to get like 625 or something like that, multiply that times 8 inches. And that should give you the amount of curvature it should curve away from you on the target. But they hit this target with no hump of Earth curvature in the way. There are other long distance photographic tests where they can see a laser from far off that should be obstructed by a hump of Earth curvature. And I think there is the record photo in, I want to say, Canigou, France or something like that, from like 200 and something miles away or something like that, with line of sight for the photo. But there's a bunch of other flat Earth-ish observations and events that can't be explained on the pagan ball, as it were.
Gotcha. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. And also, Steven Steen, thanks for your other super chat, you freak. He says, show kids you love them, teach them flat earth. Very nice, Steven. Well, it's a free country. You can do what you like, Steven. Angel Garay, thanks for your super chat. They asked, can you show a pic or a picture of the firmament?
There's a grainy photo of Antarctica. You can see something in the sky that looks like it has some sort of kind of like a texture. It could be smoke, might just be the air, but some people say it's possible firmament, pictures or whatever from Antarctica. Otherwise, there are people who have taken pictures of the sky during the day with the sun, and they'll show like a texture to the sky. It could just be the camera, could just be, some dirt or something, but some people show what appears to be a textured kind of barrier up there. There's different photos here and there that you can find on YouTube land about it. But it's interesting to see some of the breadcrumbs that lead people to think that there's some sort of firmamental covering up there.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Next up, super chat from Kit. Lemon crushes your satanic atomistic paradigms once again. Thanks for that, Kit.
Praise God. Mm-hmm.
Andrew Handelsman, thanks for your super chat, who says, sorry I'm late, James. Here's my late fee. That's nice of you, Andrew. Thanks for your support. Stephen Steen, thanks for your super chat, who says, in the beginning, God created James Coons. Genesis 1:1. That's a strange man out there. That's Stephen. Mickey Rush, thanks for your super chat, says, Red Pill the Youth. Hashtag Nathan Thompson, greatest of all time. Thanks for that. Colin Dresser, thanks for your super chat, says, any evidence of rocks orbiting in a vacuum as fact?
Yes, we can see them.
Gotcha. Wits it, gets it. Thanks for your super chat, first timer. They say, quote unquote, TJump has begged the question the entire time.
Begging the question is using one of your premises in the conclusion, or assuming that your conclusion is true to make an argument, but I haven't done that. So the point of the testable predictions is that, so you take a hypothesis, you think it's true and make a prediction. And then if the prediction is right, then you verifies your hypothesis. But it doesn't beg the question because you're not assuming your conclusion is true, you're verifying it. If the test is false, that proves you wrong. So that's not begging the question. That's why testable predictions are how science determine which theory is right.
Gotcha. Thanks so much for your other super chat, Steven Steen, who says, Marcus Dresden is Nathan Thompson's biggest fan. Well, congrats, Marcus. Happy for you. Always supportive. Mickey Rush, thanks for your super chat, who says, large bodies of water do not curve.
Yes, they do. What do you think a tide is?
Gotcha. Hugh Jars, thanks for your super chat. They said, when someone says, quote, the globe model has minimum predictability, unquote, you know they're talking from utter ignorance or arrogance or their backside. I think that's for you, Lemon. Lemon?
Shoot, something about elitist science and people not thinking anymore and giving their brains up to these scientists and stuff like that. I mean,
Close.
I don't know. This stuff doesn't make any sense.
They
The
said,
laser test and citizen journalists, do their own testing is disproving their model. So we have a problem here.
okay, I think that responded to their super chat. It's like, given that they said the globe model has minimum predictability, I think that your response met that, was attempting to reply to that. So Flat Earth News, thanks for your super chat, who says in all caps, TJump. Perfections is not science. The scientific method is scientific. You have no clue what you're talking about. You are a clown.
By perfections, I'm assuming he's talking about the conversation with special relativity where it was.
Oh, hold on. He said predictions. Sorry about that. That was my
Predictions?
mistake. Sorry about that, Flat Earth News. So they said,
So
I'll read it again one more time, especially because I enjoyed this one. Tom Jump, predictions are not science. The scientific method is scientific. You have no clue what you're talking about. You are a clown.
that's interesting. I wonder why scientists make predictions all the time. I wonder why predictions are one of the things in the scientific method. Then it's very, very strange that it's not a part of the scientific method when it's literally in every version of the scientific method.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. Appreciate your super chat from Spike Smith. They say, for Lemon, what's your highest education level, professional qualifications to support the reliability of your interpretations of evidence?
I have common sense and a willingness to submit to the truth. Something that professional elitists who have a career banking on this paradigm may not be able to have. I am an outsider who is free to operate and move in the truth in ways that compromised elitists may not be. So, whatever my level is, whatever. that is enough of a qualification to find out whether or not this pagan globe is anything else other than Greek mystery school superstition.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. Appreciate that. And thanks so much from Brink of Disaster, who says 3 words: behind the curve. I think it's a book, if I remember right. Who wrote this book?
Documentary by Mark something.
Gotcha. Oh, good to know. I'll check it out. Thanks so much, Brink of Disaster. And Philip, thanks for your super chat, who says, "Hey Lemon, why do you keep assuming that scientists are badly motivated? It's irrelevant to what can be demonstrated scientifically."
Yes, that assumption can be made with atheist spokespeople like Richard Dawkins and Michio Kaku going beyond the bounds of their method scientifically to try to prove or disprove stuff and cheerleading for an atheist paradigm, basically becoming cosmologists and priests rather than just scientists who manipulate the variables and see what actually happens. So, based off of them basically trying to take over in a way and base a society on quote unquote science, I call it science so called, and man's limited reason, I can make that assumption pretty safely. But there are, scientists from all, walks of life, competent scientists, atheists and non-atheists or whatever. The main point is the theists, I would say Christians, are not in control. The ones that are in control tend to be of a much different mindset. So even though they are present, they're not driving the agenda.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. And next up, thanks for your super chat from Stupid Whore Energy. Nasty, nasty lady. So she says, "How much are you, quote unquote, flat earthers being paid by the KGB to destabilize American society?"
Currently, all of the money and prestige go to the debunkers. Flat earthers find their content put to the bottom of YouTube and Google feeds. And to the top, you'll see discrediting content or Flat Earth Society, which is not the most trustworthy source when it comes, especially to their fora, where little to any discussion takes place. And sometimes you get this vibe that flat earthers are being discouraged from coming to the flat earth as opposed to having open discussion. So it appears that most of the effort is against the community, namely with what I've identified as 3 main components. People who have come to the flat earth have come to belief in a creator and even Jesus Christ. So the main thing, number one, appears to be diverting flat earth from belief in a creator, especially a biblical one. Number 2, barring that, sending flat earth down any sort of rabbit hole. UFOs, which would be disproven automatically if we're covered in by some sort of impenetrable dome, stuff like that. And number 3, just causing a bunch of drama, trolls, doxing them, making sure the discussion goes nowhere. These appear to be the tactics that are levied against the flat earthers.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. Next up, appreciate your super chat from SX0. Thanks so much. They asked, "Lemons keep pointing out the flaws on the globe model and the other guy just dismisses the argument." Oh, snap. They're coming after you, Tom. How do you like them apples?
Because none of those are actually problems. Like, because of the problem of underdetermination, you can always explain everything in many different ways. That's not a problem. Just like you can explain it as a flat Earth, you can also explain it as a globe. Any of them can all explain the data. What makes a theory special is, can it make future predictions that we don't know yet? And only the globe model can do that.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. And thanks so much from Michael McCaffrey. Appreciate your super chat, who says, "TJump, do we ever modify theories based on new data without them making new testable predictions? Does that reconcile with your point about predictions?"
Well, we modify theories all the time, but we don't verify them until they make predictions. So we've modified lots of theories in quantum mechanics. None of them have been verified, which is why none of them are accepted. So we definitely modify them, but they don't become accepted until they make predictions. So like we have lots of theories in physics about weakly interacting massive particles, WIMPs, and other kinds of new particles that have been added into the classical model, and supersymmetries and things that of all kinds of different variations of particles that could exist, but we don't accept any of them because none of them make predictions. We would only accept them once they make predictions.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. Next up, appreciate your super chat from Goku Sun, who asks, Lemon, if we're on a flat earth, explain why when I am on a mountain near me that is 3,000 feet, I think they maybe mean 30,000. I'm not sure. I am unable to see the nearest city that is 90 miles away.
Well, by perspective, your vision will sandwich. Basically, the top part will converge into the bottom part, and you're going to get a sandwich zone beyond which you're not going to have resolvability. There is a YouTube user named Life is Short who does several videos that try to take perspective into account and how it could work over a flat plane. If you've ever seen the camera obscura, camera is an old word for room before it became like a digital camera for light to enter the room of the camera. But anyway, camera obscura, it's like a dark room. But basically, you'd poke a hole in the wall. You'd see something in the distance that would come through the hole in the wall, and the image would be inverted on the back wall, showing that light comes through in kind of a linear fashion, and there's image inversion. That's the same thing that's happening with your eye. So when you take that image further and further away, it's going to reach the midline where the inversion happens. And eventually, the two light rays from the top and bottom of the object are going to merge. They're going to be so close together, you're not going to be able to tell up from down or have any inversion on the sensor of your eye. That's going to lead to a horizon. So you're not going to be able to see forever. Plus, air has thickness. Air is dirty. You can't see through the medium of the air forever before dirty air gets in the way. And you also probably have refraction over a flat plane. Lots of explanations right there.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. Appreciate that. And next up, thanks for your super chat from Stupid Whore Energy. Strikes again. She says, why did I see parallel anti-crepuscular rays the last time I visited my father in Fidel Castro in Cuba in an airplane while listening to Nickelback? That's weird.
Well, anti-crepuscular rays could be due to perspective. As stuff gets further and further away from you, it's just going to approach the horizon and appear to narrow due to perspective. But you can tell if something's due to perspective because when you walk up on it, it opens up like a book. The train tracks appear to go up to your eye line, but they're not physically at your eye line. It's just apparent optics. You walk up to the train tracks in the distance that look like they're at your eye level. It opens up like a book, and before you know it, you get there, and it's below your feet with more train track beyond. It's just the way that we're interpreting optics. That's all.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. And thanks so much as well to Thy Messenger for your super chat. They said, in all caps, TJump. Werner von Braun, the father of American rocket development / NASA, has Psalms 19:1 on his tombstone. They found the firmament.
The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Psalm, whichever one that was. It is interesting that the head of rocketry at NASA would put that on his tombstone, kind of like he's trying to show you something. It gets really conspiratorial with me when I see that there are so many Project Paperclip Nazis that were at the head of NASA and other institutions, especially when you have satanic ritual abuse victim Fiona Barnett talking about how Nazis would do satanic rituals in the streets. So at this point, you know, my little conspiratard brain is putting stuff together and saying these anti-God occult people are probably making a whole organization to basically make a liar out of the God that they hate.
The heavens declare the glory of God is a really common one, kind of like John 3:16. Lots and lots of people use it everywhere. It's pretty reasonable to assume he wasn't talking about the firmament part. He was just talking about the first part like everybody else.
Gotcha. Stephen Smith, thanks for your super chat, who says Austin Whitsitt is a moron. McToon has proven this. Don't worry with him, Tom Jump.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the flat Earth. I mean, it's pretty easy to prove. Like if I actually believed in the flat Earth, I would immediately fly to the South Pole and just discover it and make millions of dollars. But no one does that. Like if the flat Earth was real and the flat earthers really believed in it, I mean, you would expect a lot of them to be going to the South Pole to discover like the firmament or something, because it would be pretty easy to like actually prove it was true. But no one does it. I don't think any flat earthers have ever gone to the South Pole. I don't think that's a recorded thing that's ever happened, and I don't know why. Since I mean, they claim it's impossible or there'd be stopped, but no one. I don't think they've ever tried. Anyone can go there. It's pretty easy. I don't know. I don't know why no flat earthers have gone to the South Pole. It's a really strange phenomenon.
Gotcha.
Probably the Antarctic Treaty.
Well, no, anybody can just anyone can buy a ticket. Any sole person can buy a ticket there. The treaty only applies to governments. Any individual can go there if they want to. Like I could just go buy a ticket right now. I just looked it up on Google.
Is it that you're afraid of what you'll find there, Tom? Is that why you don't go?
Why would I go to the South Pole? I don't believe the world's flat.
Gotcha. I'm teasing.
I do, but I ain't going.
Gotcha.
I'm busy.
First time for everything. And thanks so much, Stupid Horror Energy, for her other super chat where she says, Lemon, are you Jill? Which is, if you don't know who Jill is, that's a provocative fellow named Jesus is Lord, or Jill for short, that comes on sometimes.
Jesus is Lord, but I think that might be someone else. The flat Earth is bringing people back to belief in the Creator. I was already, pretty fundamentalist before as a glober, but when I heard about the flat Earth, knowing about how governments lie with 9/11 and the incomplete narrative that they gave, with buildings burning for hours and other similar cases and standing, yet the World Trade Tower falls. Seeing how institutions, even medical science institutions, were corrupt with the cancer cures that they buried, the dangerous vaccines that they peddle that, have been linked in some cases to autism. I heard about the flat earth and said, you know what, let me look into this. Because I said, people can't believe in this stuff anymore. It's 2000 whatever, but people still believe in it. And that showed me that, you know what, I need to look into this. And when I looked into it, I never looked back.
Gotcha. I have heard the old phrase that once you go flat, you never go back. So is that...
Well, some people have, my crazy conspirator self says possible agents, but, people are different and it's complicated. It's not always some sort of paranoid conspiracy. I just look for consistency. The globe doesn't jibe with the laser test. I don't see this universal gravity acting universally where it's forming globes and orbits. Sure, stuff falls down, but it could be falling down toward a flat plane or falling through a medium that's electromagnetic and making it, rise or fall. Rise if it's helium, float and hover maybe if it's like a cloud, or fall if it's something else.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. And thank you so much to Bartos Diagos. Appreciate your super chat. They say, could you ask Lemon, what do you think, Lemon, about Google Earth, and did you take a look at it?
Google Earth is very interesting. It looks like real photos at the street level. But you zoom out, and then it gets to this uncanny level where it looks like a rendering. It doesn't really look like a real photo at a certain point. And Jeranism, another YouTuber, did a video to show how the maps look a little deformed. He started in a place in America, I think it was Wisconsin or something, and went due east, like 90 degrees due east from north 90 degrees due east. And he tried to see if the map would let him go the reverse 270 degrees due west back to the same location, or if there was deflection. And lo and behold, he went 90 degrees east from Wisconsin to someplace in Europe and tried to go due west 270 degrees back, and it deflected southwest instead of taking him due west back to the same location. That alone shows a suspicious amount of possible deformation and a map that may have been twisted and it's not taking you back the same way you came, possibly. So it is interesting to look at how Google Maps may not quite jive with reality.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. And next up, appreciate your super chat from End Flat Earth, who says, Flat Earth is dead. Let it rest. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. These guys apparently, they're just having too much. Too much pleasure is going on for them to stop. It's just Roberto Gonzalez. Thanks for your super chat. They say, how come perspective only sandwiches from top to bottom and never from left to right or right to left?
Well, that can be answered pretty logically. You have two eyes located laterally in your head, and your head is basically trying to take, all this information and make one image. So it would be expected that there would be much more information left, right, much less up, down. So the limiting factor would become up, down, and you'd get uneven disappearance on that in that regard. But also, you have a top half of your visuals zone from your eye line up, which is coming down, and a bottom half, which appears to be coming up. But this stuff can get pretty complicated. But you can also try it out with a ruler. Any sort of straight edge, really. Hold it out in front of your nose. That'll be 1 unit of length. Then turn the same, ruler, whatever, side to side, and you'll find that there's about a 3-to-1 ratio left to right versus in the forward direction. So you appear to have a different, rate of, things right there. And if you, bring something up and down in front of your face, you tend to be able to see it, longer left, right than you can, up and down. So some of this stuff can be answered with, a little bit of experimentation even.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. And thanks so much for your super chat from Brian Brokaw. Appreciate it. Who asks, Lemonbird, why can I see other planets with my telescope, yet I can't see any of the buildings in New York from Texas?
If you look at a pizza, this will help you think of the angles that you're seeing. A pizza starts in the middle and radiates out from the center with those angles. And depending on the size of the pizza, let's give like a mile-long pizza. You're going to get pretty fat angles the further away you go. That's the same with your vision. In the upward direction, you have wider angles and can see further for much longer. But things tend to compress and get really smushed if you're only 6 feet off the ground. Since you're so close to the ground, the horizon is going to be brought in because you're only 6 feet off the ground, and you're going to get a horizon about 3 to 6 miles out for a 6-foot observer. And the wide, huge view that you have in the top is going to try to descend to meet that broadened horizon to make everything nice and proportional. So basically things are going to set pretty early because you're too close to the flat plane, and things are going to basically, life is short goes over it. It gets pretty technical, but the closer you get to the surface of the earth, the more the horizon is broadened sooner, and stuff in the top part of your vision descends dramatically. It's like as one pair of angles in the bottom part of your vision closes, a pair of angles in the top part of your vision opens proportionally to give you an accurate, faithful 2D rendering on the object that isn't distorted. And vice versa if you get higher, toward, like, say, the ceiling. The upper angles are going to compress you get closer to a ceiling, and the bottom angles from your eye line down are going to open up proportionally. So it's a little complicated.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. And thanks so much for your super chat from Sassy Undeniably, first timer, who says, theories are not science. The scientific method is not predictions or models. prove curvature, spin, motion, or space not based on NASA, CGI, or presupposing it.
So everything in science is theories, like the germ theory of disease, the atomic theory of mass, the heliocentric theory. Everything in science is a theory. It's only theories. That's just how science works. Theories are built by facts. So like facts are like bricks and theories are like houses. And so you have the facts and you build them into a house. And so the facts make a theory, but theories are the big thing in science, not the facts. And so yeah, that's how science works, is by theories. I have
Gotcha.
no idea what she's even saying at that point.
Thanks so much for your super chat from SX0. Appreciate it. They asked, can you tell us at what temperature does fuel freeze? And what are the temperatures at the South Pole?
And the temperatures that fuel can freeze for planes, I don't know what I could like Google it for you what the actual numbers are, but the reason planes can't go during the winter is because it gets too cold and the fuel freezes. It doesn't apply on the ground though. The ground is still fine. You can still have like cars and fuels totally fine, but in the atmosphere, it gets too cold for planes. But you would have no problem like actually just going there during the summer, renting a car. It's not that cold during the summer.
Gotcha. Thanks so much for your stupid super chat, stupid horror energy. She says, I want to see Jill and Lemon in the same room. By the way, someone also asked in the live chat, are you Don Lemon?
Well, on CNN tonight, you may see me there doing a. No kidding, that's not me. I wish I was Don Lemon, but I'm gonna do a special report on the flat Earth tonight at 9. No I'm kidding, but the thing is with the flat Earth, it just matches sense. You're always gonna have flat earthers as long as the globe wars against your mind. We're asked to see curvature when there's no curve or no hump to the horizon. We're asked to feel movement when we don't feel any movement. When we get in a car, we feel 20 miles an hour of movement, yet we're moving millions of miles in space, yet feel none of that. That wars against sense and reason. So you're always going to have people that are going to look for a model that matches.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. And next up, let's see. I think this is the last one of the. No, we have like two more. Thanks so much, Goku-san, for your super chat, who said, Lemon, if you were presented footage of the curve from a camera attached to a weather balloon of your liking, would you consider that evidence?
No. Lenses add curvature and barrel distortion. Even the rectilinear lenses appear to add a little bit of curvature, just not as much probably. So it's really hard to accept really any photo evidence. The gold standard appears to be a straight standard over the curvature of the Earth to measure the curvature against, like a microwave, a laser, or some sort of ray shot at a target.
Gotcha.
If we flew you to space and you saw it, would that convince you?
With I'd have to get out of the structure, see it in the air with my own eyes, and then I'd have to say, okay, I've seen curvature. But you look at high altitude camera footage and it's not consistent. You'll see curvature at 40,000 feet or something like that, but then you'll see a camera at 100,000 feet that shows what appears to be flat and level. It's not even consistent enough curvature to say that there's any curvature. NASA's full of crap. It appears they use CGI and barrel distortion lenses. You'll see stuff like the SpaceX, Roadster, CGI in and out where it looks like you can see a studio in the background. It's just all bogus.
Gotcha. Thanks so much for your super chat. Appreciate it. This one is from End Flat Earth. They say everything flat earthers say is logically flawed and factually inaccurate. That's why it takes the place of our currently accepted reality.
Well, people are becoming synthetic and fake. Fake GMO food, fake beliefs, fake news, fake everything. Um, we need to build ourselves up with truth again. I look at the horizon and it's flat. So, we might need to wake up a little bit with that.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. And thanks so much, everybody, for hanging out with us. As we had mentioned, first of all, just a couple of things. First, we appreciate the speakers being with us. They are linked in the description, as well as you can see good old Tom Jump's link right there on the screen. And also, folks, want to say we are pumped. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We are excited for these upcoming events. You'll see at the bottom right of your screen, if you have not seen this already, Destiny and Vosh will be in person. That's going to be in Los Angeles. I will be there with them, like just sitting right next to them saying like, oh, hey, how's it going? And we are going to have a great time. It's going to be a provocative one, as yes, there are definitely things they disagree on if you saw their short little 20-minute mini debate as of late. Also, though, we are excited because Tom Jump, as I had mentioned, and his father, Steve McRae, will finally meet face-to-face after a long time, most of Tom's life. So this is going to be epic. They will be facing off on, again, several different topics. This can range from the definition of atheism to perhaps Tom's old claims regarding what we ought to believe in the non sequitur show situation. Very provocative, if you guys remember that. That was a little bit of a teaser of Tom and Steve. So that will be a very exciting debate. That'll also be in person. So Tom, are you promised you're not going to hit? I mean, he's your dad, so you're not going to hit him, right?
No promises.
Gotcha. It's gonna be wild, folks. I'm excited for it. And though I have to mention though, it's a thrill, as we also have, if you haven't heard, Matt Dillahunty and David Wood. This is also going to be live and in person. So this will be the day before Vosh and Destiny face off. And it'll also be which is also the same day that Tom and his dad, Steve, face off. So we're also going to have in person from Austin, Texas. We're on tour, and that's going to be on Monday, March 16th during the day. So that's going to be an epic one, folks. Want to say thanks for being here. Hopefully you tune in for those, as those are honestly, I am like pumped. I'm just like, wow, same week. And there's also one other one that like we might confirm for that week. That would be a huge guest who we've never had on, but who is known in the debate world, and that's in politics, so that would be a lot of fun, be first time. So want to say thanks, though, everybody. I am honestly just so encouraged that the channel is just so much fun for me, and it's always the more the merrier. Like, people just, you guys make it fun. So I appreciate all the new faces, appreciate all the peeps that have been with us for a long time, especially being patient with our audio issues. I think they've almost been as bad as Tom Jump's audio issues. That's how bad they were. Really bad. So thanks so much, though. Again, last, Tom and Lemon, we appreciate you guys being here. It was a great time.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having us. It's so great to just have a peaceful discussion with somebody in this, era when disagreeing with somebody is enough to get you, deplatformed and just, ostracized from society. It's great just to talk to people again, and disagree, peacefully.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And so do want to remind everybody out there, whether you be flat, globe, Christian, atheist, gay, straight, no matter what walk of life you come from, we hope you do feel welcome here. And thanks for hanging out with us, and have a great rest of your night or day, depending on where you are.